Hey everybody, we're going to continue our talk about natural selection and finish up our unit with this last activity. Let's do a little bit of review of what natural selection is, and it's that process by which organisms learn to adapt to their environment. We've spent a lot of time here with my guy Charles Darwin, who spent a lot of time in the Galapagos Islands learning about the different organisms that live there. One of my favorite quotes from him is this one that you're reading on the screen. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. Darwin had many examples of natural selection that he found while he spent his time in the Galapagos Islands. We have his finches here, and you can see that the beaks are all different from kind of the same species of finch, and it just depends on what type of food was on that island. Charles Darwin did lots of different drawings. You can see the beetle drawings he did over there on the right side. These are some more just really famous pictures that Charles Darwin did. You can see him and his buddies on the boat, probably the HMS Beagle sailing around the Galapagos. Mikey's not doing too well there. Just like some of you, he might have gotten bored while sitting around drawing his birds. We know his love for all things tortoises. And then finally, it looks like a bird that he wishes he could find right here. We have these notes of the different evidence and the different steps to natural selection. It might help you going forward if you want to review what those pieces of evidence are and what those steps are, because we're going to be talking about these steps in the activity we're going to do with some Sri Lankan elephants. Speaking of Sri Lanka, here is some pictures of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is an island off the coast of India. Just to give you an idea of where Sri Lanka is, here we got James W. Parker Middle School. We haven't seen that place in a bit. We're going to fly out, head over towards Asia, off the coast of India, and here's the island of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is pretty famous for its Asian elephants. There are two different types of Asian elephant on the continent of Sri Lanka, or sorry, the island of Sri Lanka. We've got the elephants that do not have tusks and the elephants that do have tusks. What I'd like you to think about is, what do you think those tusks are useful for? What I'd like you to do is open up this PDF in Schoology and answer this question. There is no right or wrong answer here. It's just what you think. Take a look at those elephants on the previous slide. Do you think the elephants with tusks or without tusks have a better advantage? And why do you think that? So hopefully you took some time to come up with some good reasons why with or without tusks are more advantageous to these elephants. Here's a couple more pictures. I wish I could hear your answers and see what you're thinking about right now. But we're going to move on with our activity coming up. In Sri Lanka, elephants with tusks are often hunted by poachers, and those poachers, poaching is illegal hunting or capturing of wild animals. And these elephants are usually hunted for their ivory. Other animals like rhinos are hunted for their horns. Tigers are hunted for their fur and other organs. So we've got three pictures here. The top one shows the elephants that have tusks. Below, you've got a market where some tusks have been confiscated, and most likely the animals where those tusks came from were killed by the poachers. So in order to get this ivory, which is used for trinkets, sometimes it's ground up into herbs and for medicines, instead of putting this ivory on the market, what politicians and the governments will do is they'll take all that ivory and they'll burn it because they don't want anyone profiting from this ivory. So what I would like us to do is go through a simulation of what it's going to look like in Sri Lanka after some generations have passed with these elephants with and without tusks. So here's what we have. I'm going to run a simulation that has three different bags. One bag says Sri Lanka on it. Those are all the different elephants that exist in Sri Lanka. There's a bag that has babies in it, and then there's a bag of death. So I'm going to have my daughter blindly pick elephants out of those bags. The black cubes represent elephants with tusks. The red ones do not have tusks. If a black elephant is picked, or a black block is picked, that elephant will end up dying because poachers would have poached it. If a red elephant is picked, that elephant will go back into the population, and it probably was able to reproduce, and it has 2 offspring, and we'll take that from the baby's bag.
Okay, Ella and I are going to run through this simulation together. She really doesn't know what's going on yet because she hasn't done this, but she's helping me out anyway. So what we have here is the population of elephants in Sri Lanka. There's 20 with tusks, 20 without. If she picks a black one, that elephant with tusks will go over in the death bag. If she picks a red one without tusks, we will take 2 babies, because that elephant was able to reproduce, and we'll put it into the Sri Lanka population. Okay, so we're going to go through this one by one. Round 1, here we go. She got an elephant with tusks. Poachers would have ended up poaching that elephant for its tusks, so that is going to go over here in a death bag, and it does not reproduce. Okay, round 2. Another elephant with tusks. So this elephant gets poached, doesn't reproduce, it goes in a death bag. Okay, I'll close your eyes for round 3. We get an elephant without tusks. That elephant is not poached by the poachers, does reproduce, has offspring. There's the 2 little baby elephants that we put into the environment. Okay, round number 4. Elephant without tusks. Poachers don't want that one. It sticks around, can reproduce, has 2 baby elephants. Here we go. That was round 4. This is round 5. Elephant with tusks, without tusks, stays in the environment, reproduces, has offspring. Okay, round 6. Elephant with tusks, poached from the environment, over here into this bag. Round 7. Without tusks, stays in the environment, reproduces, adds to the population. Round number 8? I think it's round 8. Without or with tusks, ends up being poached over here in the death area. Round number 9. Without tusks, stays in the population, is able to reproduce. There we go. And finally, last round. Last round, elephant with tusks gets poached, taken from the population. Okay, so now we have our data with the Sri Lanka population. These are babies that we haven't had yet, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, we've got 5 over here in the death bag. You're going to make your conclusions and come up with some final thoughts.
So here we are after our simulation. We've got our data. What I would like you to do now is I'd like you to answer these 2 questions fully and completely, well-written sentences. The first one is, what happened to the tuskless elephant trait? Explain according to the data what you saw happening and put in there why. And then finally, over time, what do you predict will happen with the elephants and their traits? So again, using the knowledge you have from our activity that we did, explain what you think will happen in future generations. Once this is all done, please submit it to Schoology, and I will look forward to reading your answers.